Hello, Mike Kako, and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining us today for the AEN-HOU hearing. It's February 3rd, 2025, and we're convened here in room 224 and video conferencing, which includes the audio and video of remote participants. It's being streamed live on YouTube. Somehow this hearing is cut short. The committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Wednesday, February 5th, in AEN's time slot, and a public notice will be posted. And because of the 90-minute time limit for our hearings, there'll be a 2-minute time limit for all testifiers, and there'll be a virtual countdown on the screen, on the Zoom screen. We have a few agendas today, so please note that we do have your testimony on record, and if you'd like to stand on your written testimony, that's certainly appreciated. And so, starting with this joint hearing with the Housing Committee, I'm here with our Housing Chair, Senator Chang, and we have one bill on the agenda. So, SB 1562 establishes the Combined Housing Operational Agricultural Mobilization Program to assist bona fide farmers to live and farm on agricultural lands, establishes a tax credit for land donated to the program. First up is Gary Suganuma for the Department of Taxation.
Aloha, chairs and vice chairs, and those from the Department of Taxation who spent on our road comments.
And your name, please?
Eliza.
Eliza. Thank you, Eliza. Next is Department of Ag.
Chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee, the Department of Agriculture stands on its submitted testimony.
Thank you, Chair.
Comments. Thank you.
Next is Kelsey Nagata or Christopher Leon from the AG's office. It says Zoom here. You're not Zooming. What are you doing here?
I wanted to see you in person.
Good
Good afternoon,
Good
chairs,
to see you.
members of the committee. Kelsey Nagata, Deputy Attorney General, providing comments on SB 1562. Generally, committees should be attached to one of the principal departments as provided in the Constitution. And further, there is some ambiguities in the bill on page 5, lines 3 through 5, which is unclear as to how the Department of Agriculture will hold the lands under this program. We have provided some written recommendations in our testimony, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Mayor Richard Bisson from Maui is in support. How about Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau?
Good afternoon, chairs, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony providing comments. We'd like to start off by saying we absolutely support affordable housing and access to housing for our farmers and farm workers. However, we do have some concerns with this program. One of them is we're not sure if this is properly housed under the Department of Agriculture. We're not sure if this is their mission. Their mission is agriculture, is supporting agriculture. We suggest maybe HHFDC or another agency. Also, we want to make sure there's enough resources, and there are issues with housing when the resident no longer farms. So maybe we can start working with organizations like Kunia Village Title Holding Company, who does the Kunia Agriculture Village, or other entities, and make sure that they're involved in this conversation. We are strong supporters of housing both for our farm workers and our farmers. We're not sure if this is the way to go, but we do commit to working with the legislature if we want to pursue this particular program. So thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Hunter Heveland from Hawaii Farmers Union.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, committee members, Hunter Heveland here on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. You have our written testimony in support of this measure. We just wanted to highlight a few of our concerns and recommendations for program modification. Initially, I think addressing the tax credit provisions, we've provided a few different recommendations, but potentially tying the tax credit volume to the quality of the land. Current programs across the state, for example, the important agricultural lands, have seen land dedicated, but not necessarily land of quality. So less than 30% of the lands that have been dedicated as IAL currently are rated as A or B under the Land Study Bureau rating. So we want to ensure that any lands involved in this program are of high quality to support the agricultural production that would happen on it. Furthermore, clarification in the structure and the purpose of the program is necessary. Incumbency, as some of you know, has its benefits, and incurring long-term leases often leads those leaseholders and tenants to pursue additional leases, as we've seen in testimony last year. So need to clarify, is this a program for new and beginning farmers that we need to have a short-term or rather mid-term lease that then changes as cohorts go forward? Or are we trying to provide housing for a single group over a longer period of time? I'll leave it to your judgment to determine the structure there. We've got other pieces in our testimony, but happy to answer any questions, and mahalo for the opportunity.
Thank you, Hunter. Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. This is Jade McMillan on behalf of Nomachika for the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We've submitted some comments on the measure. Ours are related to the tax credit. We do not see the tax credit as one with potential for high uptake, and the cost in the changes to tax forms, programming, and staff training may outweigh the potential loss in revenue from the. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let's see. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure, either online or in person? Members, are there any questions? Okay. Hearing no questions, we'll go right into decision making. The chair's recommendation will be to pass with the amendments from DOTAX, Hawaii Farmers Union, as well as the amendments that are suggested by the Attorney General's office to add a provision to clarify the Department of Agriculture's authority to acquire agricultural lands, and to amend Section 8 on page 7, lines 18 to 20 as follows, quote, "There shall be established an advisory committee within the Department of Agriculture," unquote. And we'd also like to make note of the Department of Ag's request for funding and positions in the committee report, and we will defect the date to July 1st, 2050. We have quorum. Good. Any discussion? For AEN, chair votes aye. Senator Rhodes?
Chair's recommendation on SB 1562 is to pass with amendments. Chair Gabbard votes yes. Senator Richards is excused. Senator DeCoit also excused. I'll vote yes. Senator Wah?
Aye.
Recommendation's adopted.
Thank you, members.
For the Committee on Housing, same recommendation for SB 1562 to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye.
Members, SB 1562, Chair's recommendations passed with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Aquino.
Aye.
Senator Canoe has excused. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
And that concludes the 1 p.m. agenda. Thank you very much. Adjourned. Okay, aloha, and we are gaveling in the 102 AEN agenda. Let's see here. First measure up is SB 1171. Requires the Department of Agriculture to establish a program to provide certain monofilament netting free of charge to the public through local hardware stores to slow the growth and spread of coconut rhinoceros beetles in the state. Requires the DOA to establish rules allowing the sale and distribution of certain monofilament netting in the state. First up, Department of Ag.
The department stands on its written testimony.
Okay, with comments, thank you. Next up is Robert Hoff from DLNR.
Robert Hoff, DLNR, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. We stand on our worded comments on the measure.
Thank you. Chelsea Arnott from Hawaii Invasive Species Council.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee, Chelsea Arnott on behalf of the Hawai'i Invasive Species Council. We'll stand on our written testimony and support, but I wanted to highlight that this is really protection of individual trees. It really gives an option to community members and farmers that don't want to use pesticides and really want to utilize the coconuts after. We still need more tools and just want to emphasize that there's still money needed for research to really combat this problem and manage coconut rhinoceros beetle in our state. I'm available for questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau was down on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hunter Hevelin from Hawaii Farmers Union.
Chair, Hawaii Farmers Union stands on its written testimony also in support.
Thank you. Parwinder Grewal from CTAR.
We stand on our written testimony.
In support, thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Online or in person? Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next measure, SB 1186. Relating to sustainable food systems, establishes the statewide interagency food systems coordination team and the interagency food systems working group within the Department of Agriculture, requires reports to the legislature, establishes positions, and appropriates funds. First up, Department of Ag.
Aloha, Chair. The Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you, Cedric. Next is Mary Alice Evans, Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. In support. Next is James Barrows from the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. Has comments. Hunter Havlin, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. Farmers Union stands on its written testimony in support of this measure.
Okay. Mariah Yoshizu from Ulupono Initiative.
Thank you, Chair. Ulupono will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Lauren Zerbel from Hawaii Food Industry Association, online.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Alexis Chapman for HFIA. We stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Galase from Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Turn on your sound, Nicole.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
This is Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. We'll stand on our written testimony in support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come forward.
Aloha, aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Vivian Hill, and I stand with my written testimony in strong support of SB 1186 on behalf of the Hawaii Youth Food Council. I would just like to highlight that SB 1186 is definitely a step in the right direction. However, young people are being left out of the conversation. We aren't just leaders of tomorrow. We're already working on food policy, sustainability, and agriculture today. We bring fresh ideas, firsthand experiences, and the long-term vision that Hawaii's policies need. This is why I urge the committee to include a designated youth advisory seat on the interagency systems working group. A seat for a Hawaii resident aged 16 to 24 with experiences in food advocacy or agriculture. This is about ensuring that the next generation has a voice in shaping the policies that affect our future. So thank you so much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. And your name again, please?
Vivian Hill.
Vivian Hill. Okay, thank you, Vivian. Okay, please.
Aloha, Aaliyah Herman representing Hawaii Food Bank. We stand on our testimony in support and just want to add that given the incredibly high rate of food insecurity, a third of our families in Hawaii are food insecure, that we think working collaboratively to figure out how to invest in our local food systems and feed those closest to us is critical. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, members, any questions? I have a question for Department of Ag. So with the, we've been working for a few years on this working group, so it's near and dear to my heart. So how will the Interagency Food Systems Working Group ensure that its efforts will lead to tangible improvements in local food production and food security, rather than just another layer of bureaucracy? In other words, how are we going to measure the success, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about importing 85 to 90% of our food for the last how many years? We're talking about that, and at a cost of $3 billion a year. And so the whole point of this is we're trying to come to get a solution to this instead of just talking about it, right? So what are the, please.
Aloha, Amanda Shaw, serving as statewide food system coordinator.
Yeah, we're on Hamilton Water Plant up front.
Thanks, Chair, for that question. Really, this is not just another plan to sit on a shelf. This is about coordinated and efficient action. And so as folks have talked about, there's a number of areas where we want to see progress. We have specific goals and laws and mandates specifically around things like institutional purchasing, so school food, food in state institutions. And we think that bringing our collective efforts together can be a really important outcome of some of this work. So those are the tangible and concrete. There's a number of tangible and concrete areas that we've proposed to move forward, in part as a result of the 2024 working group process, and then to expand that, work deeply with the counties and others that have been involved in food systems planning across the state.
So Amanda, you do have benchmarks built in along the way so that all of us can see, oh yeah, this is what's happening here. Okay, this is a good sign. Okay.
This is about accelerating progress,
Great.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on to the next measure, SB 1250, relating to Farm to Families, establishes the Hawaii Farm to Families program to alleviate food shortages in the state, requires reports to the legislature prior to the regular sessions of the 2026 and 2027 sessions. 1250. And by the way, that last measure we just discussed, SB 1186, had 28 in support, 0 opposed, and 2 comments. So on 1250, Department of Ag is first.
Aloha, Chair. The Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony in support of this measure.
Okay, thank you, Cedric. Mayor Bisson from Maui is in support. Genevieve Mama from the Hawaii Hunger Action Network.
Aloha, Chair. Genevieve Mama from Hawaii Hunger Action Network would like to stand on a written testimony in support.
Thank you, Genevieve. Amy Miller, President and CEO of the Hawaii Food Bank.
Hi, Leah Herman again on behalf of the Hawaii Food Bank. Just want to add to our written testimony in strong support of this measure, emphasizing how important this is for our local farmers. This gives us a chance to really invest in those farmers in long-term, secure ways. They know that we're there when they have B-grade products, that they don't have another way to unload. We can take those and then get them to families who don't otherwise have access to local culturally relevant food. So we really hope you'll strongly consider supporting this. We also hope you'll consider the support, more than 100 letters of support from across the Pai'aina that came in as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. Next is Hunter Hevelin from Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair, members of committee. Hunter Hevelin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. We'll send on our written testimony in strong support of this measure, but just want to highlight the critical value of this for supporting families across the state, not just during everyday settings, but by building relationships with local producers day in and day out. We bolster the ability of our food system to respond to crises, whether that be supply lines or other disruptions. And so by ensuring and supporting food banks to have not just imported supply lines that are durable, but local supply lines that are durable, we're increasing the resilience of the system overall. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you, Brian. And on Zoom, Lisa Paulson from the Maui Food Bank.
They're not available on Zoom.
And Lauren Zerville from Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Good afternoon again, Chair. Alexis Chapman for HFIA again, and we stand on our testimony in support, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Nicole Galase from Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. You there, Nicole?
Sorry, I think she left. Yeah, she is back.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Cattlemen's Council stands on its written testimony in support.
Thank you, Nicole. Anyone else wishing to testify either online or in person on this measure? Members, are there any questions?
Sorry, there's a testifier on Zoom.
Okay, and who is this?
Kako. My name is Kelsey Ann Kwanani Conklin. I'm a health policy advisor, food systems planner, and Kanako Iwi with over a decade of experience in public health research at community-based work in Hawaii and the United States. I stand on my written testimony and want to just highlight a couple of other ways to continue to support farm to families. As it's currently written, this bill will do much to support local communities and economies. So I urge you to support this bill, and please consider amending it to allow food pantries and other agencies who distribute directly to communities to use the funds and ensure that they're not just accessible to food banks. Second, allow these organizations to use the funds to purchase additional cold storage, such as coolers, freezers, and refrigerated trucks, and pay for the electricity and fuel needed to run that equipment. And last, allow these organizations to use the funds for additional part or full-time staff who will be needed to really operationalize farm to families, such as by building and sustaining relationships with producers and managing supply chain logistics. So these are small changes, but based on my research of farm to food assistance and work in Hawaii over the last few years, I think they would really build out the efficient infrastructure and people power needed to make these programs more successful and sustainable in the long run and really build up our local food economy. So mahalo for this opportunity to provide testimony. If you have any questions, I'm happy to be contacted.
Thank you, Nani. Anyone else? Members, any questions? Okay, we had 89 testifiers in support, 0 opposed, and 0 comments. So moving on to the next measure, SB 1303, relating to agricultural loans, updates the agricultural loan program by lowering interest rates, increasing and standardizing loan limits, and reducing the number of credit denials, authorizes the agricultural loan program to issue lines of credit, creates a new class of loans to encourage large-scale agriculture of import replacement crops grown for the farm, the state program. First up is Department of Ag.
Aloha Chair, Cedric Gates here on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. The department stands on its written testimony and support.
Alofa lava lao susuma. Mahalo. Or Fapatai, whatever. Next, Mariah Yoshizu from Ulupono Initiative.
Thank you, Chair. Ulupono will stand on its written testimony.
Thank you, Mariah. Hunter Heveland, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony and support, as well as highlighting the measure for the next comments.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Farm Bureau, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you, Brian. Nicole Galase, online.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Cattlemen's Council stands on its written testimony in support. Mahalo.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, let's see. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions? Hearing none. Moving on to SB 1395, establishes the Climate Mitigation and Resiliency Special Fund, mandates the allocation of all earned interest from the Emergency and Budget Reserve Fund to the newly established special fund, appropriates funds. And backtrack here, that last measure, 1303, had 7 in support, 0 opposed, and 0 comments. First up on 1395 is Mark Glick from the Hawaii State Energy Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Senators. Cameron Black on behalf of the Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand in our written testimony and support.
Thank you, Cameron. Next is Will Kane, the Senior Advisor for the Office of the Governor.
Thanks, Senator.
Aloha, Will.
Thank you. I'll just take a moment. Will Kane on behalf of the Office of Governor. Thank you for the promotion. So we just, a little background on this bill, right? After the Maui wildfires, the governor put together the climate advisory team to look at all sorts of things that we needed to do across the state for mitigation and resiliency. Out of those recommendations were, one of these was a dedicated source of funding that would address these needs, both infrastructure, programmatic, and so on. And so the governor came up with one of the recommendations, from the CAT, and the governor agreed with, was to look at the rainy day fund, the EBRF, and the interest only, right? So not touching the principle of the EBRF, but sweeping the interest into a climate mitigation and resiliency special fund that would then be a dedicated source of revenue that could either be bonded off of or just used as cash to work on these projects. Thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Will. Next up is Leila Laramie from the Climate Change Commission.
Chair,
Thank you, Leah. Chris Benjamin from the Climate Advisory Team. Chris here. In support. Hunter Heavlin, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony and support.
Tom Yamachika, Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
They're not available on Zoom. Oh, there.
There they are.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Jade McMillan on behalf of Tom Yamachika for the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Our comments are directed towards the establishment of the new special fund. We feel that there's no indication that the proposed fund can be self-sustaining, and as that's one of the requirements from the legislature for special fund establishment, we don't think that this method is appropriate for establishing.
Okay, thank you. Next is Ted Boland from Climate Protectors Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair and members. Ted Boland from the Climate Protectors Hawaii. I want to thank the Governor's office for proposing this legislation. We are in a climate crisis. There is an emergency. We have to have some money for all of the expenses that we're going to incur. And if we don't plan now, we're going to pay later. So having a dedicated source of revenue like this I think is a very good thing, good step to take. I'm not wedded to this particular revenue source. Another source would also be good. But this one would help, I think, and I appreciate the funding for this great need for the state going forward. Available for questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ted. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come forward.
Aloha, my name's Melissa Pavlicek. I'm here today on behalf of the Care for AEN-HOU Coalition, and I apologize, our testimony was submitted late, but I do believe it went in. The coalition is composed of over 100 individuals and organizations who support natural and cultural resource protection and restoration. We recently completed a study, excuse me, I must need a second cup of coffee today, senators. Completed a study that indicated there's a $560 million annual gap in spending for natural resource protection and restoration. And this bill, while it is not likely to yield $506 million a year, would go an important step forward. Each of the last few years, we've released a study that indicates there's widespread community support for increased funding for natural resource protection and restoration. And soon we will be releasing another report which indicates visitors as well support such a fee if it were imposed, but definitely we support this bill, and thank you very much for hearing it.
Thank you, Melissa. Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 1395?
I'm at UN with Department of Land and Natural Resources. Sorry if our testimony came late, but we are also in support. Aloha.
Thank you, Emma. That it? Members, any questions? Okay, moving on to SB 504, relating to agriculture, establishes a local agricultural transportation cost reimbursement program within the Department of Agriculture to reimburse eligible ranchers and farmers a portion of their cost to transport livestock, livestock products, agricultural commodities, and certain supplies under certain conditions, establishes a position to administer the program, and makes appropriations. Okay, let's see here. The last measure, sorry, 1395, there were 14 in support, 0 opposed, and 1 comment. First up is Department of Ag on 504.
Good afternoon, Chair. The Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony in support of this measure.
Okay, thank you, Cedric. Mayor Richard Bisson from Maui is in support. Hunter Heavlin, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. Hunter Heavlin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union still. We stand on our written testimony in support, but wanted to highlight a few key aspects, particularly clarification around the extent to which small or especially beginning farmers would be eligible for this program. It, as currently drafted, would have an income threshold. So is there a mechanism by which smallholder operations or beginning farm operations could become eligible? Additionally, we seek to expand eligibility to include both cooperatives and food hubs explicitly, as they play a particular role in ensuring that small and mid-sized family farm operations get to market. We also recommend the establishment of reimbursement caps per operation. And finally, suggest the inclusion of a reporting requirement so that we can learn a little bit more and demonstrate the efficacy of such a program, particularly in light of a bill that has been introduced on the House side, which would remove some of the support for inter-island agricultural goods shipping in our tax structure. So happy to answer any questions. Mahalo for the opportunity.
Thank you, Hunter. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony and support.
Thank you, Brian. On Zoom, Nicole Galassi, Hawaii Cattlemen's Council.
Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, members of the committee. Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. We definitely appreciate this bill, as along with other costs, transportation especially is increasing, but it's always going to be needed. Thank you so much, and we stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you, Nicole. Lauren Zerbel from the Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Alexis Chapman for HFIA. We stand on our testimony in support, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, we had 13 in support, 1 opposed, and no comments. Members, any questions? Okay, moving on to our next measure, SB 1185, relating to agriculture, establishes within the Department of Ag a working group to review and make recommendations on amending or repealing unnecessary or obsolete laws pertaining to agriculture. First up, Department of Ag.
Lord Chair, the Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony offering comments on this. Wow.
Thank you. Robbie Melton from the Hawaii Agricultural Research Center.
Chair, Hawaii Ag Research Center stands on its written testimony and support.
Thank you, Robbie. Next is Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony and support.
Thank you. Hunter Heveland, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Hawaii Farmers Union stands on its written testimony and support. And because nothing sounds more exciting than going through every single law in the books, we would like to be added to the working group. And also just to highlight, while there is value to this, that there are concerns about the approach in general. An approach that's been adopted in a few jurisdictions on the mainland has taken a tack known as zero-based regulation, which often seeks to significantly reduce regulatory structures. And we hope that the Department of Agriculture, which has long avowed that it itself is a regulatory effort, would not be left with nothing to do. So with that, we do hope to join the working group.
Thank you, Hunter. And let's see. Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 1185? In person or online? Members, are there any questions? Hearing none. Moving on to SB 1187, relating to agricultural biosecurity, appropriates funds to the Department of Ag for permanent positions in agricultural biosecurity established by Act 231. Okay. First up is Department of Ag.
Aloha Chair, the Department of Ag stands in support of this measure. Wow.
Thank you. Chelsea Arnott from Hawaii Invasive Species Council.
Aloha Chair, members of the committee, Chelsea Arnott on behalf of the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. We'll stand on our written testimony and support and just want to really highlight the word permanent here. These positions are really needed at Department of Agriculture. Act 231 established it. This will help make those positions permanent, and nobody else can do this job or has this authority except Hawaii Department of Agriculture. So here to support and here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you, Chelsea. Hunter Heveland, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have our written testimony in support. We have a simple, friendly amendment asking for millions of dollars for programs. I won't go through all of them. It's essentially what we saw in the CD1 version of HB 2619. I know there was a $10 million reduction. We're asking for, again, those programs along with the permanent positions to be included in the bill. I believe my number comes up to 16 million change. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Brian. Nicole Galassi from the Cattlemen's Council.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Cattlemen's Council stands on its written testimony and support.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, are there any questions? Okay, in this measure, there were 14 in support, 0 opposed, and 0 comments. Okay, and then moving on to the final measure on this agenda, SB 1111, establishes the Agricultural Statistics Program in statute. Department of Ag.
Thank you, Chair. The Department of Ag stands on its written testimony in support of this measure.
Thank you. Carlotta Amarino from the Office of Information Practices. Comments? Mariah Yoshizu from Ulupono.
Thank you, Chair. Ulupono will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you, Mariah. Hunter Hevelin, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Farmers Union stands on its written testimony and support.
Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bill was done on the written testimony and support.
Okay, that's it. Anyone else online or in person? We have 6 in support, 0 opposed, and 1 comment. Please.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chairs, and the committee for the opportunity. We do, CTAR has submitted its testimony, but it's late. We apologize for that. But that said, I just wanted to say that we are in support for this particular measure. We also wanted to say that CTAR now has the capacity with the recent hiring of additional agricultural economists to contribute to this effort. So if I have already discussed briefly with the Department of Agriculture board chair, the possibility of collaborating more effectively on this particular bill.
Okay.
Thank you. And also we suggest our name be amended to College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resilience instead of Resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, any questions?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Department of Ag.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Atulo.
Aloha, thanks for being here. Question I'm asking, this is a bill that I proposed. How big is the puka of lacking the data that we're looking to reestablish with this? How many years have we been missing in this?
Since 2009 with the RIF. So it's
And-
about 15 years.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to ask that question is I'm a data person, data-driven. The decisions that we make up here are based upon so often data. And the importance of having data doesn't mean a lot this year, but 5 years from now, what happened this year means a lot when it comes to setting policy. How long and how quickly do you think we will be able to reestablish this data collection?
If the positions that we ask for are given to us, we can start right away with the reporting of market data relating to wholesale produce. That's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do or suggest is to make sure that we get batch arrival data, the data from one port to another, intrastate, and then beyond that, interstate. Once we have that information, then the economists can jump in and determine food self-sufficiency for various categories of ag products. And then we can update it on a regular basis.
And definition of regular, is that quarterly, Monthly seems a lot, but how often?
In the past, our wholesale data was reported on a weekly basis.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that concludes the testimony on the 102. We'll go into decision-making. Start off on the first one, SB 1171, relating to invasive species, requiring the Department of Ag to establish a program to provide netting, monofilament netting concerning CRBs. So the chair's recommendation on 1171 will be to pass with amendments from the DLNR to note that the CRB nets should be visible to and applied in a way to prevent the entanglement of birds, entangle or disturb native and beneficial animals, or end up in the water. And will pass with the amendments from the Department of Ag, replacing the 1/2 to 3 inch mesh with quote unquote an appropriate mesh size unquote throughout the measure, and removing section 2 and subsection B. And then amend section 1 subsection B to read, quote, the Department of Ag shall adopt rules in accordance with Chapter 91 to implement this section, including but not limited to establishing requirements related to filament diameter, color, and the inclusion of visual cues to prevent non-targeted entanglement, prohibiting the use of mist net material designed for bird work, and allowing the distribution and sale of fine mesh nets, including monofilament netting, of an appropriate mesh size to protect plants from invasive species, unquote. Then amending section 2 to ensure compliance with federal and state pesticide laws and rules, and then amend to clarify that the Department of Ag will be responsible for the distribution of the nets, and remove section 2 subsection 3, and there are some tech amendments and defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. So the chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any discussion? Chair votes aye. Senator Richards.
Chair votes aye on the matter of SB 1171. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoite is excused. Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Elwha. Aye. Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 1186, relating to sustainable food systems, establishing a statewide interagency food systems coordination team and interagency food systems working group, which is in dire need of an acronym. Do that in the next committee, yeah. So on this, the recommendation will be to pass with amendments to blank the appropriation amount, inserting it into the committee report for consideration, and also defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Members, any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On the matter of Senate Bill 1186, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoite's excused. Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Elwha. Aye. Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 1250, relating farm to families, establishing the Hawaii Farm to Families Program to alleviate food shortages in the state. On this one, the chair's recommendation will be to pass with amendments from the Department of Ag, blanking the appropriation amount, and then inserting it into the committee report for consideration, and also defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On the matter of 1250, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoite is excused. Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Elwha. Aye. Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Okay, let's see here. Thank you. And then SB 1303, relating to agricultural loans, updates the ag loan program by lowering interest rates, increasing and standardizing loan limits, and reducing the number of credit denials. Let's see. On this one, the recommendation will be to pass with amendments to clarify that the name of the fund to receive the appropriations is the Agricultural Loan Revolving Fund per section 155-14. Hawaii revised statutes, and then blanking the appropriation amount and inserting it into the committee report and tech amendments. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 1303, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoite is excused. Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Elwha. Aye. Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. And then SB 1395, establishing the Climate Mitigation and Resiliency Special Fund. excuse me, the chair's recommendation will be, as the special fund receives a portion of the TAT, we will be amending the measure to include conforming language. Also, we'll blank the appropriation, inserting it into the committee report, and defect the date to July 1st, 2050. And also, there are some tech amendments. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 1395, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator DeCoite's excused, Senator Rhodes. Sarah Watt.
No.
Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 504 relating to agriculture establishes a local agricultural transportation cost reimbursement program with the Department of Ag to reimburse eligible ranchers and farmers. And the recommendation on this one will be to pass with the amendments from the Hawaii Farmers Union and an amendment submitted by the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii to include Hawaii's flower farmers by including, quote, floriculture and nursery production under the definition of certain local agriculture producers throughout the measure. And we'll also defect the date to July 1st, 2050, and tech amendments as well. Any discussion?
Chair, one comment?
Yes.
Yeah, Chair, just my history, I am from agriculture, so there's an outside chance I might benefit a little bit from this.
Okay.
So I've reached out to see if there's any conflicts. We have not heard back as of yet, but it's my understanding, because this is sweeping of the industries, that I do not have a potential conflict, so I will be voting.
Thank you. Vice Chair. So Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
On matter of Senate Bill 504 passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator DeQuaid is excused, Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwa.
Aye.
Chair 4 in favor, motion is adopted.
And then moving on to Senate Bill 1185, establishing within the Department of Agriculture a working group to review and make recommendations on amending or repealing unnecessary or obsolete laws pertaining to agriculture. On this one, I need some more time taking a look at all the information. So we're going to defer decision-making on this measure, SB 1185, until Wednesday, February 5th, 2025 at 1:05 p.m. here in room 224. And then moving on to 1187, appropriating funds to the Department of Ag for permanent positions in ag biosecurity. 1187. The chair's recommendation will be passed with amendments from the Hawaii Farm Bureau to amend the measure to include the program funding from HB 2619, CD1 SLH 2024, also to blank the appropriation amount, inserting it into the committee report and defecting the effective date. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 1187, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator DeQuaid's excused, Senator Rhodes. Aye. Sarah Watt.
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor, motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. And then on the final measure, SB 1111, relating to ag statistics, establishing the ag statistics program into statute. Chair's recommendation will be to pass with amendments from the Office of Information Practices and the amendment from CTAR to correct their name and blanking the appropriation amount, inserting it into the committee report and defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion?
Chair.
Yes.
I would ask that our director from CTAR made an interesting comment about having capacity to help. So it asks that in the committee report, we note that and see if there's some collaboration can be done.
Sounds good. Okay. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 1111, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator DeQuaid's excused, Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Alwa. Aye. Chair, you have 4 in favor, motion is adopted.
Okay, and that concludes the 102 agenda. Adjourned. Hello, Mike Ako, and welcome back. We are moving into our 105 agenda, and we have 6 decision-making measures that we're dealing with here. Starting off with SB 678, establishing the Agricultural Development and Food Security Special Fund, requiring a portion of the environmental response, energy, and food security tax to be deposited into the special fund. Yes. On this measure, the chair's recommendation will be to pass with the following amendments. And I do have to read these out loud. I apologize, but anyway. First of all, delete section 3. And next is from the Farmers Union, add the following to 141C. The procurement of locally produced agricultural products during federally declared disasters or state emergencies to address food insecurity and stabilize agricultural markets. We work with the AG's office to address their concerns, so there are numerous amendments that I will, as I said, I will read. That's revised page 3, line 20 as follows. Quote, measurable outcomes. Insert the following immediately after page 3, line 20. 141, qualifying standards for agricultural production or processing activity grants. Applications for grants shall be made to the Department of Agriculture and contain the information as shall be required by rules adopted thereunder. At a minimum, the applicant shall, 1, be licensed or accredited in accordance with federal, state, or county statutes, rules, or ordinances to conduct the activities or provide the services for which a grant is awarded. Number 2, provide a detailed plan outlining the scope, objectives, and projected impact of the project or projects, and a clear breakdown of how grant funds will be used. Number 3, agree to use state funds exclusively for the purposes of agricultural production or processing activity. Number 4, indicate capability to properly use the grant for the purposes of agricultural production or processing activity. Number 5, comply with all applicable federal and state laws prohibiting discrimination against any person on the basis of race, color, natural origin, religion, creed, sex, age, sexual orientation, disability, or any other characteristic protected under applicable federal or state law. 6, agree not to use state funds for purposes of entertainment or perquisites. Number 7, comply with other requirements as the department may prescribe. Number 8, comply with all applicable federal, state, and county statutes, rules, and ordinances. Number 9, agree to indemnify and save harmless the state of Hawaii and its officers, agents, and employees from and against any and all claims arising out of or resulting from activities carried out or projects undertaken with funds provided hereunder, and procure sufficient insurance to provide this indemnification if requested to do so by. And number 10, agree to make available to the department all records the applicant may have relating to the grant to allow state agencies to monitor the applicant's compliance with this section, and then defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Oh, I need a drink here. Okay, any questions?
Chair?
Yes.
Concerning, and I may have missed it, in the initial bill, it had 3% of the state budget as far as the funding. Was that blanked?
Yeah, that was deleted.
Okay,
That was a
all right.
mistake in the, yeah, thank you. The chair votes aye. The recommendation to pass, got the recommendation already. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On the matter of Senate Bill 678, Chair passing with amendments, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair now votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwal.
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 496, the next measure requires the Board of Ag to define the terms bona fide farmer and bona fide ag activity. Let's see, the chair's recommendation will be to pass with an amendment to direct the Board of Ag to solicit and incorporate stakeholder input in the definition of bona fide farmer. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On the matter of Senate Bill 496, passing with amendments, is that accurate, Chair?
Yes.
Passing with amendments, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Alwal.
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. Relating to ownership of ag lands, this is SB 245, beginning January 1st, 2026, prohibits certain entities from owning, purchasing, or acquiring ownership of ag lands. The chair's recommendation is to defer this measure for the time being. We are scheduling a hearing for a proposed SD1 that will incorporate the amendments that are based on the testimony that we received. Okay, moving on to SB 329 on recycled water. Requires at least 50% of treatment works effluent to be R1 recycled water by January 1st, 2045, amends the year by which no treated or raw sewage shall be discharged into state waters. And the chair's recommendation will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 329, chair votes, passing unamended, chair votes aye. Vice chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Senator Alwa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next measure, SB 681, repeals the exemption to the general excise tax for agricultural businesses engaged in the production of genetically engineered agricultural products. Recommendation on this measure will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Hang on a second. Okay, Senate Bill 681. Okay, on the matter of Senate Bill 681, recommendation of chair is passed unamended. Chair votes aye. Vice chair votes nay. Senator DeCoit's excused. Senator Rhodes? Reservations. Senator Awa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you very much. And then final measure on this agenda, SB 724, repealing the exemptions for certain dealers of deposit beverage containers and related provisions. Requires all dealers of deposit beverage containers to operate as redemption centers. On this measure, the chair's recommendation will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 724, recommendation from the chair is to pass unamended. Chair votes aye. Vice chair votes with reservations. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwa?
No.
Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members, and that concludes the 105 agenda. Hello, Mike Alcoa again, and we are convening the 106 agenda of decision-making for AEN. 2, 3, 4, 5 measures on the agenda. First one up is SB 563, directing the Department of Agriculture in collaboration with the Agribusiness Development Corporation and the counties to conduct an agricultural water infrastructure study for the state of Hawaii. And the chair's recommendation will pass with an amendment to defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 563, pass amended, Chair?
Pass with amendments.
Pass with
Effective date,
amendments.
yep.
Chair votes aye. Vice chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit's excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwa? He's excused now too. Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. The next measure is SB 1232, establishing a 3-year new wastewater technology testing pilot program within the UH Water Resources Research Center to test and evaluate the new wastewater technology systems in coordination with UH. Sea Grant College Program, College of Engineering, Department of Health, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and the appropriate county agencies. On SB 1232, the chair's recommendation will be to, and by the way, these were joint with the Higher Ed Committee, so we're making our decision-making separately. So this one here is to pass with amendments and to defect the date to July 31st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 1232, passing with amendments, chair votes aye. Vice chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next is SB 686, establishing short-term management initiatives for the Coconut Rhinoceros Beetle Response Program. Recommendation here will be to pass with amendments, including the Attorney General's recommendation to insert appropriate standards and language about statewide concern, also defect the date to July 31st, 2050, and blank the appropriation and insert into the committee report. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Senate Bill 686, passing with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwal.
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 657, relating to the Center for Climate Resilient Development, appropriates funds to the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology within UAs to establish and operate a Center for Climate Resilient Development. Okay, on 657, the chair's recommendation will be to pass with amendments to blank the appropriation amounts, noting the deleted amounts in the committee report, and to defect the date to July 31st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 657, passing with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwal.
No.
Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. And then on SB 1154, the final measure on this agenda is to requiring the John A. Burns School of Medicine to construct, establish, and operate a disease and environmental toxins testing laboratory, test samples submitted by the public for diseases. And the chair's recommendation will be to defer this measure indefinitely. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much. Aloha.